Well, this evening all are we is one, and we're going to learn about the drum and the drum origins and some of the drums that are played throughout the region. I now call on one of our presenters, King Shepherd. Is that the whole of the man name? King Shepherd Carlton Davison Calendar. King Shepherd.
I have been asked to speak on the journey that resulted in the birth of an Afrocentric Caribbean religion known as spiritual Baptist. But let me from the offset say that for me to speak of the journey within the context of a time frame of 5 minutes cannot be possible. So I hope you will understand that I will look at some aspects quickly so that I would respect the constraints of time. The long and protracted legal prohibition which came about because of the misunderstanding of this thing called the spiritual Baptist, because time was never taken to understand the phenomena. There were a people called the Essenes that existed in ancient Palestine. Sometime around 2nd century BC until the Jewish War with Rome AD 6673. They were noted for their strict discipline and adherence to the Old Testament principles of the Bible. On a deeper investigation of these people, it was discovered that they practiced a form of baptism. And from the Bible's record, John visited them in the wilderness, and Jesus himself was attracted to the ancient form of worship, and he visited John too in the wilderness. The Bible records that Apollos, Paul talks about Apollos' skill, how he was skilled in spiritualism, and he was an excellent orator. However, he only knew the baptism of John. That's what the Bible says. Further, there was another people known as the Aladura, Yoruba, Congo, Igbo, Ashanti, Hausa, found in Nigeria, West Africa, and Sierra Leone, to name a few. Some of them migrated to Egypt. Other parts of Africa engaged in trade. The River Nile was an important part of the trade route experience. It was from among them, a majority of them were captured as slaves and brought to the Americas and the islands of the Caribbean. The slaves that came through the United States of America developed their own form of religion. And we still have in America the black church. Those that been to Jamaica, the Ashanti, they intermingled with, and I'm going to talk as it come, I can't read it, intermingled with the Maroon. There's a Maroon people in a place known as Maroon Town in Jamaica. When the Ashanti intermingled with the Maroon, what emerged were Nyabingi, Kumina, Pocomania, Revival, affectionately called Zion. Further evidence suggests that it was that state of revolutionary consciousness that gave birth to reggae and Bobo Shante in Cuba. The spiritualism of the African people was developed Today we are proud of the Santeria. In Haiti, the development of spiritualism emerged and we call it voodoo. In Barbados, without impunity, nothing was developed in Barbados of the African man. However, one Granville Williams went to Trinidad to get a taste of the African work, returned 57 years ago, and the work started. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the African work emerged and called converted. They were outlawed when they were at a corner keeping service and the governor on his horse passed. The song of a bell scared the horse. Governor fell, went to the House of Parliament and outlawed the practice. Grenada, Cayuga, Petit Martinique, the big drum experience, which we now know as Salaka or Saraka. Guyana, there was a form of worship there too, greatly influenced by the Catholic belief system, using crystals and lights known as celestial work. Brother Emmanuel Jordan migrated to Trinidad and Tobago, received baptism, returned to Guyana, and the church was known as the Jordanites. In Panama, migrants, immigrants from Jamaica intermingled with Southern Baptists, Southern black Americans during the boom to construct the Panama Canal. Out of that migration, there are a form of worship known as Alabesian. In Trinidad and Tobago, once we arrived, we sought to practice our unique form of worship, which emerged and was called spiritual Baptist in one way, and in the other form, the Orisha. Trinidad was divided with that practice. First, second, third, fourth, fifth company. Caledonia, there are places in Trinidad that have roots in the Orisha, and there are places that it did not survive. The Orisha practice evoked heavy hands of the law, and in an attempt to restrict the freedom of our spiritual expression, disguised by slave manifested himself in calling some of its Orishas by some ancient Catholic saint name. The form of worship continued. The spiritual Baptists survive legal prohibition and marginalization. Today we are at a place where the Ife religion, if I may use the correct term, survives in Trinidad, and the Aladura, which is the spiritual Baptist, also survive. In ancient times, the people who practiced the Orisha were the rich Anglicans and Catholics. Once the spiritual Baptist stepped into the Orisha, the name was coined Shango Baptist. But there's nothing like Shango Baptist. There is Baptist and there's Orisha or Ife religion. You may practice in your front lawn spiritual Baptist, which is the so-called Christian philosophy, and right behind your door you have the palais to practice Ife religion. Let me wish that we understand, and in brief I tried to put this together, but I hope we understand that we've come from a powerful people, one race, many people, one people, many forms of worship, one God, which is the God that we know. We were never exposed to Satan and sin. The European church brought Satan and sin into the black man's consciousness, I hope that we are able to know where we come from and where we are going. Sankofa. Good night.